Imagine South Korea in the 1950s. The country is in ruins after years of war and division. Most of the industry was in the north, and the south was left with very little. The GDP per person was lower than countries like Haiti or Ethiopia. The first South Korean president tried some reforms, but it wasn't enough.
Yes, I agree. South Korea depended a lot on simple farming and aid from other countries. Most of their electricity and mining operations were in the north. But then things took a surprising turn. South Korea started to change, becoming rich and advanced in technology. It didn't happen on its own. A key person, Park Chung-hee, becomes important here. He took power through a military coup and started to change everything.
After Japanese rule ended, South Korea was in a very bad state. Most of the industry was up north, near the border. This left the South poor and struggling. There were efforts to fix things, but it was tough. The first president, Syngman Rhee, tried to make changes. He worked on land reforms and building a good education system, hoping it would help.
Yes, Rhee did focus a lot on education, which was a good start. He knew that smart, skilled people could help change the country. But the economy still depended mostly on simple farming. Also, there was help from other nations, especially the United States. But this help was not enough. When we look at GDP, it was much lower than in places like Haiti, Ethiopia, or even Yemen at that time.
South Korea seemed stuck after the war. Farms were basic, and many families relied on them for food. There were not enough jobs in factories or good-paying work. The country needed to make its own products, but was still importing many items. Thinking about it, this all changed quickly after Park Chung-hee came. But before him, it was really hard.
It's fascinating how the country went from this point to becoming so advanced. You know, if listeners want the script or enjoy our talks, they should click Join for membership. It helps us a lot. Okay, back to Korea. They were in a critical situation, yet big changes were just around the corner with very strategic steps, starting with Park's leadership.
In 1961, South Korea was under a lot of stress. There were social problems and people were not happy with the government. This led to a big change, a military coup led by Park Chung-hee. It was a time when many people wanted change because the country was not getting better. Park's rise to power was supported by some because they believed he would bring stability and improve the nation's condition.
Yes, Park Chung-hee took over in quite a dramatic way, didn't he? By leading a coup, he installed a reformist military government. But this wasn't just about military power. Park had a vision for South Korea. He wanted to focus on industrialization. The country needed a strong plan to change from relying on simple agriculture. Park believed that industry was the key for South Korea to escape poverty.
Under Park's leadership, the focus turned sharply from import substitution, which wasn't working well, to boosting homegrown products. The idea was to grow the economy by producing within the country. However, Park saw that this was not enough. He moved away from just replacing imports and took on a bigger task, export-oriented industrialization. This was a big step to ensure economic growth, aiming for the country to make goods that could be sold worldwide.
Indeed, this shift marked South Korea's transformation era. Export-oriented industrialization became central to Park's regime. The goal was to build a strong economy that would not just support itself, but also compete globally. South Korea was soon producing and exporting a lot of products. Park's strategy involved making the country a big player in industry by setting high goals and constantly looking for ways to expand economic activities beyond its borders.
The idea of a developmental state is central to South Korea's growth story. It's a system where the government actively promotes industry. Back then, Park Chung-hee made industry the top priority. This was a time when the country was very poor, and Park knew that focusing on industry could change this. The government gave all their efforts to build factories and produce goods, leaving social welfare aside.
Yes, and Park had to find money for this big plan. They got funds by offering low-interest loans, especially from countries like the United States and Japan. With these loans, South Korean companies could start to grow and produce more goods. It wasn't just about getting money, though. Park created strict plans, like 5-year strategies with specific goals. Companies had to meet these targets, but the private sector had a good role too.
That's right. Even though the government had control, private businesses were crucial. The state made sure that these businesses had what they needed to succeed, but it was not an easy task. The government did more than just rely on domestic efforts. They really pushed to get international finance and used things like 5-year plans to push toward their goals. It was all about achieving quick industrial growth.
Indeed, the way they concentrated on exactly which industries to promote was interesting. Park wasn't worried about social programs or immediate public benefits. He believed that building strong industries first would later help everyone. He encouraged these businesses to manufacture and sell as much as possible. The focus was on becoming very good at producing and selling. In time, this helped South Korea move from poverty to prosperity.
Now let's talk about how the Chaebol started in South Korea. The government needed to work with families who already knew business, both inside and outside the country. They thought these families could help them meet the nation's goals. The government promised these families funds to let them build and operate large companies in South Korea. These families had to make sure they reached production targets the government set. This created powerful business groups called Chaebols.
Yes, and some of these chaebols became very well-known names like Samsung, Hyundai, and Lotte. These business groups started to have a big influence. They grew large and strong, manufacturing a variety of products. Samsung, for instance, got into many different areas. They made air conditioners, TVs, smartphones, and even ships. The government was very keen on these groups meeting the targets for exports and production, and it worked well. They didn't just succeed locally, but also made their mark worldwide.
The Chaebols played a key role in strengthening South Korea's economy. The government set the direction and guidelines, ensuring that these business groups received all the necessary support. In exchange, these businesses were tasked with pushing ahead in their production and exporting more. This approach helped South Korea become a more industrialized nation quickly. The emphasis was on creating a strong and competitive business environment, able to compete internationally, while ensuring products were made locally.
Indeed, the rise of chaebols changed everything. They dominated many aspects of economic life in South Korea, employing thousands of people and contributing significantly to the country's GDP. Samsung alone accounts for a large part of the entire economy. Their strategy of developing a broad range of products helped them thrive in various markets. This success story is an example of strategic partnership between government and private businesses working together for national growth.
Did you know that South Korea's rapid growth needed a lot of foreign money? Before improvements, their situation was shaky. The country's foreign debt rose from $4 billion to over $37 billion between 1972 and 1982. That's an enormous increase. This big jump in debt didn't happen by chance. The government had a clear plan, mainly aimed at boosting and supporting the industries they were prioritizing. It was necessary to get these funds for the country's leap forward.
Yes, and part of the financing came from an important deal with Japan. In 1965, South Korea signed the Japan-Korea Treaty. This treaty included reparations that gave South Korea $800 million in grants and loans. Imagine receiving such a large amount when your whole country is trying to rise. This money was like a strong push for their industries. It meant South Korea could invest heavily in its infrastructure and industry. This was crucial for the economy.
The treaty with Japan wasn't just about receiving money. It was also about strengthening diplomatic relations. Using diplomacy, the South could secure vital funds for its economy. This money gave a lifeline to grow the industries they already had started. They made sure this investment went directly to key sections of the economy that needed it the most. This was a vital part of their success story, leading to new jobs, more production, and better goods.
Yes, and speaking of critical industries, let's talk about POSCO. They were one of the big winners from the Japanese reparations. They received around $100 million, which was a huge sum. POSCO used this money to build large steel plants. These plants became very competitive due to low costs and great efficiency. Today, POSCO is one of the top steel producers in the world. This is an example of how strategic funding and planning can help a company and a whole sector grow immensely.
South Korea went from making simple goods to creating complex products like cars and electronics. This shift was not just about luck. The government focused on helping industries grow. They offered support to make sure that businesses could transition from basic things to advanced products that were in demand worldwide. It was a gradual but focused journey, steering industries into advanced stages of production.
Exactly, and this focus paid off. Soon, Korean products began appearing all over the world. They were no longer just local goods, but quality items that people wanted globally. However, the imports to Korea were still heavily controlled. The idea was to encourage Koreans to buy their own products, strengthening domestic businesses. By limiting imports, South Korea protected its own industries as they grew stronger and more competitive worldwide.
This export-oriented strategy was key. South Korea turned all efforts toward getting their products out to the global market. The government played a vital role here, giving businesses the needed push. They were provided with many benefits, like financial aid and other support. This made it easier for these companies to focus on selling abroad, ensuring high quality and competitive prices. The goal was to make South Korea a recognized brand around the world.
Yes, and these companies received not only financial help but also fiscal incentives. By reducing taxes on profits and offering exemptions, the government made exporting even more attractive. Businesses had better access to foreign markets, strengthening their position globally. This approach was crucial in helping South Korean firms not only survive but thrive in a highly competitive world. It shows us how government support can transform industries and push a nation forward. We really appreciate you joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and leave a comment. Your thoughts mean a lot to us. If you want the full text of our podcasts, consider joining our YouTube membership for exclusive transcripts and more. Your support helps us continue creating quality content for you. Until our next episode, take care and keep learning.